When you think about the German sports sedan market, the 3 Series has to be one of the first cars that comes to mind. Because unlike the Audi A4 and Mercedes-Benz C-Class, the 3 Series has been with us for around 50 years now, believe it or not. And throughout the generations, we have had some fantastic cars, but also timeless classics. We're not quite there yet with the G20, but when you take a look at where BMW is going right now, the G20 might actually be a car that we look back on very fondly. For 2025, BMW has gone through another mid-cycle refresh for this car. Some people are calling it the LCI2. I wouldn't go that far because design-wise, nothing looks different here, at least at first glance. And then also, yes, there's some new features for the interior, but outside of that, it's the same G20 you all know and love. But is it? In today's video, we're going to check out what the 2025 330i has to offer because there is more to this car than meets the eye, and in fact, the changes that BMW has made might be rather beneficial and might make you question whether the 330i should be the next car in your driveway. Now, before you get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Herb Chambers BMW Sudbury in Sudbury, Massachusetts for letting me come down here to check out the new BMW 330i. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive BMW inventory. So as always, let's begin with pricing. For 2025 with the BMW 330i, you're looking at a starting cost at exactly $47,500 if you go with xDrive. This will undercut the Mercedes-Benz C300 4MATIC and will be on par with the Audi A4 and other non-German competitors in this segment. For 2025 though, it's all going to center around the minor cosmetic changes for this year and also the new technology for the interior, which we'll check out in a few minutes. In regards to those exterior changes, the only thing I can point out to you guys for this car that we have today is the new 18-inch alloy wheels, which gives this car a more dynamic presence from the side profile, and I think goes really well with the paint color we have on our model today. Design-wise, though, nothing else has changed because you can go with some exclusive colors that's brand new for 2025, but for the front and rear fascias, nothing's changed at all. Personally, I think the G20 is aging rather gracefully and aging like fine wine because it kind of looks like the G30 5 Series, which I think is the best looking 5 Series since the E39. So I do have a bit of a connection to the G20 now because it's the last conservative and contemporary looking car in the lineup compared to the 4 Series, the new 5 Series, and 7 Series. So this car, enjoy the looks while you still have them because this will probably be changed up in about a year or two. So up front, you are going to have the full LED headlights and LED turn signal indicators, but better yet, the small kidney grills that are outlined by brushed aluminum accents. Nice little touch there. And then for the lower portion of the front bumper, you have active side air curtains. Now, since our model does not have the M Sport package, we have a more luxury look to this model. With the M Sport package, it will look like the M340i, which isn't a bad thing at all. If you want an aggressive looking car, go with that package for sure. But what we have here is a nice design. You have the striking body lines on the hood and the lower portion of the front bumper. And also another thing too is that the safety systems are tucked away in that lower grille. It's not screaming and shouting at you that it's there and it's noticeable. In fact, that blends in very well. Then taking a look at the side profile, once again, we have to talk about those 18-inch alloy wheels. Love them. They look really good on this car. Matches the sportier nature of the G20. You're going to have body color folding side mirrors with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Also, another thing too I want to point out here is that with the regular 330i, the brushed aluminum accents will outline the windows as well for that classier touch. Then as you make your way around to the back, you are going to have the full LED taillights here with the dual exhaust outlets. And then for the body lines on the trunk, it gives you a subtle decklet spoiler look to this sedan. But what I find rather comical, almost 6 years since this car was unveiled, is the fact that back in late 2018, everyone was saying, oh my gosh, what is BMW doing? Their sedan looks like a Lexus. And here we are, almost in 2025 now, and I think we're begging and pleading BMW to go back to this look and style. This is a timeless design for the G20, so take it all in while you can because this generation is going to be phased out in a couple of years. And while we're taking a look at the rear fascia, might as well check out the cargo area for 2025. So no surprises here, you're not going to have a power trunk, but inside behind the second row seats, you have a maximum cargo capacity of right around 16 cubic feet of room, which is more than respectable in this segment and for a car of this size. This would be on par with the Audi A4, Mercedes-Benz C300, and would be better than the Alfa Romeo Giulia and Genesis G70. Now, one thing I think a lot of you are going to like here is that this cargo area is rather deep and wide, so you can store a lot of items back here. I had no problem storing all my camera gear, so I think if you are going on a road trip with a significant other or a couple family members, you'll probably be able to fit 6 or 7 bags of luggage back here with no problem. Then on both sides of the rear cargo area, you will have some cubbies for some smaller items, such as a couple water bottles, car detailing equipment, or maybe even a first aid kit. Obviously, you can lower the second row seats to maximize that cargo capacity, but I have a feeling that if practicality is a top priority at around $50,000, you would just go with the BMW X3. Then hopping inside the BMW 330i for 2025, your eyes will be focused on the conjoined screen for your digital gauge cluster and the iDrive 8.5 user interface. You could have fooled me, BMW, because that looks like the iDrive 9 in the X3. The fact that they were able to pretty much integrate the same layout as what you have with the Android-based head units in the X3, X1, and X2, that's pretty impressive. However, though, there is one takeaway. You no longer have physical buttons that control your dual zone climate control and heated steering wheel. So keep all of that in mind, because I think some of you are focused on having the physical button layout, the analog layout, and having more of a tactile experience. You don't get that for 2025. Also new is this steering wheel, which has an octagon-like design to it. We're seeing a lot more of this in the BMW lineup. I will say, though, that for those of you who do like driving aggressively on a back road, or maybe in the mountain and canyon roads in California or up here in the Northeast, you're going to like the steering wheel. I think it complements a vehicle of this size and, of course, a sports sedan. You'll still have the paddle shifters to rotate the gears yourself, which will go very well with that ZF 8-speed automatic transmission. Pretty much the rest of the interior, though, is the exact same. You have the rotary dial and quick access buttons on the center console, which will get you to different menus efficiently. So I do like having that. Some BMWs are moving away from this layout, and that does take away from the user experience and user friendliness for the iDrive 8 and iDrive 9 systems. You're also going to have physical buttons for your drive mode selector for Sport, Comfort, Eco, Pro. Also, you have physical buttons for your traction control on and off button, park assist features, auto start stop, and then auto vehicle hold, and your electronic parking brake. But let's talk about this technology for a minute, because this is all new for the BMW 330i, which is this full digital gauge cluster, which is going to be intuitive, unlike what you found in previous model years. So you're probably going to notice that the resolution is a bit better, the graphics are improved, and now you can display the navigation map. You can scroll through a variety of information here, so it's not going to be static like we had in the past. Now, this is going to be found in a lot of other BMW products, including the new BMW X3, and by using the dial and button on the right side of the steering wheel, you can scroll through a variety of information and customize the layout to your liking. Now, if you were to go with the premium package for the 330i, you will also receive a head-up display, and that too can be customized with different layouts and different information. We don't have that equipped on our 330i today, but I would definitely recommend going in that direction because they're easy to read, and also BMW's head-up displays are very high quality for a vehicle at around $50,000. Then taking a look at the infotainment system, this is BMW's iDrive 8.5 user interface with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility to go along with onboard navigation, and we also have a wireless phone charging pad for our model today. Just like we saw with the iDrive 9, there will be quick access icons at the bottom of the screen to get you to different menus. So you still have dual functionality here with this screen, which I love from BMW. So you have your home button, your navigation, your radio, and then your button for all your widgets. So from here, you might want to spend a few minutes getting used to where your widgets are, so that way it's an easy transition when you want to access some features and some technology in your 330i. But more importantly, though, is your climate menu. So since you don't have physical buttons anymore, everything is now on the screen. From here, you can adjust your dual zone climate control, heated front seats, heated steering wheel, AC, front and rear defrosters, fan speed, and fan direction. Yes, I know this will take some time to get used to if you do own an older BMW 330i, maybe a 2020 model. When you hop into a 2025, it's going to be somewhat of a different experience for you. It's going to drive the same, it's going to feel the same, but technology is where you're going to want to take it easy and just get used to everything, especially the new digital gauge cluster, but also this head unit. Everything else is pretty much straightforward. I do like the iDrive 8.5. It's very responsive. The resolution and quality is competitive with its closest rivals. And since this is very much like the iDrive 9, there's really no reason to say that, oh, BMW has an outdated interior. You're going to find this in the new X3. So what we have here with the BMW 330i should satisfy your cravings if you are someone looking for a tech-filled experience. Now, our model does not have a top view camera or a 3D view camera, but for our model today, we do have a rear backup camera with trajectory and parking sensors. Now, before we continue on with the rest of the interior, let's also talk about these seats. So for our model, we have power adjustable and heated Sensitech seats for both the driver and passenger. You can upgrade to leather upholstery if you so desire. Now, like I said before, with the Vaganza upholstery, but also the Sensitech seats for this generation, BMW has come a long way. You don't have to spend an extra $1,000 or $2,000 for that leather upholstery if you don't want to. These seats do provide a lot of support and bolstering, and they're very comfortable, which is more important since this is a 330i and not an M340. If you're looking for an aggressive experience, go with the M Sport package. But I think what you have here with the 330i is more than adequate in this market, and I do think these seats will be very supportive when you are driving on weekday commutes or going on those longer road trips. Then for the rest of the interior, you are going to find a single row of buttons for your volume and tuning, hazards, and then front and rear defrosters. You'll find a USB-A and 12-volt outlet next to your 2 cup holders and wireless phone charging pad. Then for the center storage compartment, there's plenty of room for smaller items such as a couple smartphones, wallets, or other tech gadgets, and you will find a USB-C outlet here. And then finally, above will be a power moonroof, which will bring in a lot of natural light to the interior. Then for passengers, in the back, you are going to see right around 35 inches of legroom, which isn't going to be class leading, but I have a feeling that will not deter you at all, because if you are looking at buying a sedan right now, you're past the kid phase, or you don't even have a family, so you don't need to worry about having the interior space for passengers in the back or the overall practicality. With the BMW 3 Series though, even for a 330i, these second row seats do provide a decent amount of support and bolstering, so I don't think passengers will be swaying around too much when you are on those winding back roads and you're having an exhilarating driving experience with this sedan. Now, in regards to headroom though, I'm not the tallest person out there, but I don't feel cramped or claustrophobic. So I think that if you have taller passengers around the height of 5'8" or 5'9", they'll not be hitting their head on the headliner. Shoulder room wise, more than adequate for a car in this market, but I don't think you'll be squeezing in a third person in the center because the center hump is rather aggressive, so keep all of that in mind. For the rest of the second row seating area, you are going to find 2 center mounted air vents to go along with climate control. No heated outboard seats on our model. We do have 2 USB-C inputs. And to round out the second row seating area, you do get a center armrest with 2 cup holders. So for 2025, BMW has made 2 major changes mechanically to the 330i. One being the 48-volt mild hybrid system that is now paired with this 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that produces 255 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. As always, it is paired with the ZF 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, unlike most BMWs in the lineup, this 48-volt mild hybrid system doesn't really change up performance at all, so no significant gains in regards to horsepower or pound-feet of torque. You are going to notice that it does feel more refined when you are using that auto start-stop system. But more importantly is the fact that BMW, once again, made revisions to this chassis, more specifically the rear dampers. Now you're probably thinking, okay, what is BMW actually doing here? Why so late in the game for this generation are they focusing on the rear dampers? Well, I think for the 330i, you could make one criticism, and you could say, well, compared to a Mercedes-Benz C300 or Audi A4, it just didn't feel luxurious. It didn't feel high quality for a car at around $50,000 because BMW has always been the ultimate driving machine, more specifically for this generation, where it does feel rather sporty even for just a base 330i. Now, having driven this car around for about 10 minutes now, I do notice that the rear has a bit more rigidity. And with that, when you are in the corners, it feels more planted and composed. Now, of course, you can go with rear-wheel drive to make this car more enthusiast-focused, but one thing I do notice, though, is that when you are in those sharper twists and bends, it feels more flat, and that was something that was lacking in the past. A lot of the bumps and imperfections don't translate to the interior, and overall, the driving environment, you feel more isolated being behind the wheel. So of course, you're still going to have the aggressively tuned steering. There's going to be a nice, decent weight to it, and it is going to feel agile and athletic compared to its closest rivals from Audi and Mercedes-Benz. But at the same time, it's going to feel like a true luxury sedan. Now, in these corners, it hugs the road very well, and better yet, you don't feel as though the rear end is lacking, because this car does have a great turn-in. It's most certainly more fun to drive than most of its competitors. I would put this near the top with the Alfa Romeo Giulia. But when you were in those corners, you would feel as though that something just was missing with the rear end. And now you had that rigidity, you feel that stiffness, and it feels flatter in the corners. So that is one thing that I'm definitely noticing here for the 2025 model. What I also really like too is that with this B48 motor, it is quiet. Even when you are on throttle, it doesn't make a lot of noise. So interior insulation is really good for a car at around $50,000. I will say though that for this minor facelift, this feels much more like a baby BMW 5 Series than a few years ago. The G20 has always been a fun, sporty little car, but I think you could always say that it was missing something in regards to being a luxury sedan. Maybe buyers would go to Mercedes-Benz or Audi. Now I think for 2025, the small things that they have changed up is going a long way here, especially the steering wheel. Now, BMW is falling in love with these octagon-like steering wheels, which actually works for a car in this market. I'm typically not a fan of these, especially in other products, but for a 3 Series, having a flat bottom steering wheel and aggressive 10 and 2 and 9 3 positions works really well for this sedan. In comfort mode, it's still engaging, and you have the softness of that suspension, and it all comes together really nicely. Now, since we are going to take a sharp turn here and put the power down, I'm going to put the 330i in sport mode. Let's see what the performance is like. Nice braking here. Impressive, very impressive. The ZF8 speed has always been smooth with the gear shifts, but I feel like now for 2025 with this 48 volt mild hybrid system, they've turned up the dial another notch here. In sport mode, the steering does get a bit firmer here. And it also is still a very fun car to drive. Now obviously for some of you, you'd want to go with the M340, but if you're looking for a car that is definitely more athletically tuned, agile, and performance focused out of the 3 German manufacturers in this segment, you're going to want to go with the 330i. Now I said in a recent video with the Mercedes-Benz C300 that I liked the layout of the interior for the C300, that I felt that the C300 in regards to the driving environment felt more luxurious, and I am going to stick by that. In regards to the on-road driving experience though, I think the 330i is still better in that regard. While we have gone over the fact that they did change up the interior layout for 2025 with this conjoined screen for the digital gauge cluster and infotainment system, keep in mind that you no longer have buttons that control your dual zone climate control, heated front seats, so everything is now on the screen. But we saw the same for the C300, so there are drawbacks and takeaways for both infotainment systems and user interfaces. Well, the 330i is getting up there in age, and I can't believe it's been about 6 years since I first featured this car back in early 2019. This car is still aging very well, and even though a lot of rivals are starting to close the gap a bit in regards to performance and overall refinement and of course technology, I still think the 330i is the way to go if you are an enthusiast and you want a car that is going to feel very fun to drive on a daily basis. Because while I do think that there are more luxurious offerings, such as the C300, performance-wise for a 330i that doesn't need the M Sport package, this is going to give you a lot at around $50,000. And for most rivals, you'll be spending over 50 grand to get the same type of quality and driving experience. So even though I do think that BMW needs to work on their luxurious aspects in the future for another generation, what they have here as a daily driver, as a true German sports sedan, this is still unmatched and unrivaled. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick review for the 2025 BMW 330i. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys next time.